Located just off the main street of Julian is the Julian Pioneer Museum, where I met historian David Lewis, who welcomed me.
Well, Noah, you're standing in the Julian Pioneer Museum. It didn't start out as a museum. It started out as a blacksmith shop. The original walls here, the rock walls, made out of Julian schist, S-C-H-I-S-T. I always like to spell that out for people. We started in 1952 when the Julian Women's Club decided we needed to preserve Julian's history. They collaborated with the County of San Diego, restored this building back to what it was like in the day when it was built, and been operating that way ever since.
This place is loaded with tons of Julian history, including information about Fred Coleman.
Local lore says he was out tending his cows one day and he stopped at a creek, Coleman Creek, it was later named, to water his horse and looked down and saw what he thought was gold. Sure enough, it was gold. Apparently Fred couldn't keep a secret or didn't want to, and pretty quick there were a lot of people in that creek panning for gold. And it didn't last very long. We don't have a lot of water and a lot of sand in that creek, so it ran out and they started looking for the source of that gold. When I say they, people who came after that initial rush, and followed the creek up. It comes up here to the south side of Julian. Well, they made a left turn and went up above Julian here on what they eventually called Gold Hill. And the Washington mine was discovered up there, the first producing gold mine. That means the one that actually made some money. And that was in February 22nd, 1870. Washington's birthday.
I guess you could say from that point on, Julian began to take shape.
Everything kind of came together all at once. We've got Fred finding his gold, which was 3 miles west of Julian. So we've got Drury, Bailey, and his cousins and brothers having arrived here on November 1st, 1870. They were from Georgia. So this picture up here has the founders of Julian. This is Drury Dobbins Bailey. He's the founder of the town. That's his brother Frank, his oldest brother Frank. That's his brother James. They were all involved in the mines together. And these are the cousins Mike and Webb Julian. Now the town of Julian is named after Mike. And there's two versions of why it's named after Mike and called Julian. The version that I go with is this was a mining camp. And Mike Julian was the recorder for the camp. That's the guy that kept all of the legal documentation, who owns what, how big it is. And so the newspapers started calling this the Julian camp whenever they referred to it, because it didn't have a name until...
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
All his name's on all the paperwork.
Yeah, so anyway, I think when Drury hired that surveyor and laid out the town and named it Julian, that was why he just left it at that. Why change it? The next version of how it got named Julian is the family version, kind of. Richard Bailey, his grandson, this was his version that he preferred. Mike was the handsomest man in camp, and that's why they named it Julian. So
that makes sense.
We're going to go with Richard's version because he's family.
David was fun to listen to. Wonderful stories and lots of great information. Next, he showed us some important Julian artifacts.
People ask me what my favorite artifact is in the museum. It's this pick. In 1899, Drury Bailey injured himself. I don't know how he did it, but he had a bad leg. He's seen on crutches in that picture there. So when he went to go work back in the mine, he took this assayer's pick, put a longer handle on it with a brass tip, and that was his cane. So he didn't have to carry his candle, his lunchbox, and everything. He had one less thing he had to carry. So he could blacksmith. He made that little candle holder there to go in the mine with. But to me, this is like Lincoln's top hat. This here is Drury Bailey's saddle. He's on that saddle in that picture right there. That's just on the east side of the town here. It's missing one stirrup. One of the family decided they needed a memento and it disappeared, so we can't find the stirrup. Well, we got this room is like most of the museum. It's a lot of stuff. weaponry here from World War I. The hand grenade, we got that. Wooden legs. Have you ever seen a movie called Texas Across the River with Joey Bishop and Dean Martin? So that was filmed basically in my backyard in Wynola on the Hoskins Ranch. And the Star Rutherford Cattle Company had a herd of longhorns. So they were used in this movie. So there's a movie star. We've got George Sade. The saddle belonged to George Sade. This man, it's said that one time could start driving his cattle from the desert side of Volcan Mountain all the way to the ocean and never leave land he either owned or controlled. He was a pretty big cattleman in this county. All sorts of tools, vintage tools. This building here, the rock part of the building, is the original building here, about 1888, I think it was built. Joseph Treschel was a blacksmith, and this was his blacksmith shop. Those are his tools, and that's his anvil right there. Do you need your hair curled?
Oh my gosh, that is crazy.
That's scary.
This is a switchboard, just like we would have had in Julian almost up until the time I was born. Of course, you got the operator sitting here with their headphones on, plugging people in. This operator was an important person in the community. Oftentimes somebody would just call in and go, "Have you seen my husband?" And Edith McGowan would look out the window and say, "I think I just saw him going into Coleman's." You couldn't get away with anything in the town because somebody was looking. But we had party lines, and I used to stand there on the couch at our house and listen to the conversations. My mom didn't exactly like it all the time because the gal up the street, I guess, could cuss like a sailor sometimes. This is the post office that was still in use when I was a little guy growing up here. The post office was in the front of the building. In the back of the building was the switchboard operator. And these are the post office boxes that were in there. It was pretty cool because you had to go in there and dial this combination. That was fascinating to me. This is a map that took me years to complete. It's all of the homesteads that were recorded on the USGS website. We got Julian City here. Over here is where my family homesteaded, down here in Eagle Peak. This is one thing that you might not find in a small museum. That bookcase belonged to U.S. Grant.
Wow.
This mural that you see in the background here, that, I can't remember the year it was now, but that hung in Marston's department store in downtown San Diego.
Wow.
So, and
Somehow you guys got it.
somehow we ended up with it. And another somehow we ended up with it is this lace collection.
Oh, beautiful.
Some woman had amassed this collection on her own. And when she died, they were going to toss it. And some guy says, "You know, I know this little museum, they might want it." Well, the San Diego Lace Association put this display together for us, and their claim is that it's the best lace collection west of the Mississippi.
Okay, like I said earlier, this place is amazing. And the love, passion, and dedication David has for his town is awesome. So next time you're in Julian, just hanging out and having some pie, take some time to stop into the Julian Pioneer Museum. You'll be glad you did.